It's great to see everyone. I want to welcome you to Rising Together, Building Our Movement for Just Reputation, for Justice and Reparations. What we're gonna do today is we'll take a quick look at our system of incarceration, and then we will be very privileged to hear from our panelists, who will be talking about the work that they've been doing for justice and with a compassionate vein. So I'm going to give a quick introduction. This is Jeff Matsuoka. His mother was taken from Peru and interned here in Crystal City. And he is representing Campaign for Justice, Redress Now for Japanese Americans. June Hamamoto, her parents were in Poston and Manzanar, and June is going to be talking about her work in today's incarceration system at San Quentin and her work for people who leave, who get out. And over here we have Isabel Zepeda. She's going to tell you about her lifetime work, working with pregnant mothers who are immigrants into the U.S. and how she shelters, how she reaches them, and what she's doing. And finally, we're going to have, not finally, but at the end, we're going to have Vidi Diana Carrizales from I'm School. And as the educator, I was flabbergasted with the work that they're doing in schools with large immigrant populations. All right. My slides aren't working. Okay. So here we are at the Crystal City Pilgrimage. Many of you are survivors or descendants of Crystal City. Lily, you may have known Libby Yamamoto, who has passed away, but she wrote in her memoir, and when she testified for Congress, she said, after she was brought here, her father had been gone for several months from Peru. She said, seeing her father soon after coming from Peru to join him, when we joined him, I remember when I saw him for the first time, being so happy and hugging him. He had lost a lot of weight. He said he was fine, but he didn't look fine. Even so, we were just glad to see him. Reuniting with him for such a long time felt so good that the guard towers and the machine guns pointing at us didn't seem so bad. Still, in all our relief, I remember it was made very clear to all of us not to get close to the fence because we could get shot. So, I know none of us have ever forgotten that Crystal City, along with another 100 sites, imprisoned Japanese Americans, Germans, and Italians during World War II. Ben Takesha of Richmond, California, was only 11 when he went to Topaz concentration camp, and he said, at age 11, I thought and said, this feels like a prison. But as we heard today, and as we all know, this prison system of mass incarceration did not start with the incarceration of Japanese, Germans, and Italians during World War II. We know that as soon as the settlers, founding fathers and settlers arrived in the U.S., they started to seize land and colonize the land away from the first people of this country, the indigenous people. They went westward, they built forts and guns to slaughter the indigenous people. So today, many of them still live in abject poverty, and they've been pushed to reservations throughout our United States. I wanted to give you a big picture of the system of incarceration that's happening. So I'm just showing you a series of maps. On top of that, we have the federal system of incarceration, and this map doesn't even represent the state system, the jail system, and the private prisons that are in this country. To date, according to the Vera Institute, there are 109 million people incarcerated in the United States, and the majority of those people are ethnic and racial, come from ethnic and racial minorities. This only points to how race has been a critical feature in the incarceration of people throughout American history. And finally, today, here's a map of where detention centers are now. Not only, these include private. Just don't forget, when the U.S. government says we only have this many detention centers, they're not counting the majority of privately owned detention centers they have, and they're planning to build so many more. I know this morning we heard that Fort Bliss has space for 5,000 people to house or to contain 5,000 people. Right now, there are approximately 61,000 immigrants locked up and countless people who've been deported. Stan Chikuma from Seattle, Washington, monitors the number of people going in and out of the Northwest Detention Center and recently said, "In no other times besides slavery have so many human beings in this country been chained and shackled." How can we stand up to the systematic disregard and denial of human rights? Could you just take a second and turn to a partner and name one action, one thing you could do? It could be as simple as not turning off the TV when the news comes on, the awful news, or staying in touch with what happens, or writing a letter, or being here at this pilgrimage. So just take a minute to talk to someone close to you.
Recently, I've been working on just building a relationship, strengthening my relationships with people.
Yeah, that's great. Education, awareness.
And checking in a way.
Well, for me, maybe participating in activities like the deal and
It's been similar to me.
we're going to this protest next Saturday,
All that is happening,
and that's really
that
important
last week it was really hard, so I was like,
be
I need
visible,
to cancel my meetings, and I just went outside. I got
Yeah, that's what I
and I
would
was just in the headspace, and I just like found someone that would create some space for me to also kind of agree and like identify like my patterns.
All right, can you wind it down? How about somebody sharing something?
Well, sure.
Raise your hand and speak loudly, and I'll also repeat it.
Shares for the seniors.
Something that you thought of to make a difference, to make a step towards social justice. Okay.
Actually, I got it today this morning at an earlier session, and we were talking about what we were going to be able to do. And since I'm a paralegal and have a lot of court experience,
I can't hear you.
I'm a paralegal and I have a lot of court experience. So she said that you need to be a court watcher
Right.
at immigration hearings.
She needs what? I really.
To be a court watcher.
Oh, court watcher.
immigration hearings. And we just
All right. So, thank you. Did you hear that? She said you can volunteer to be a court watcher when someone goes to a hearing for immigration. All right. Let me show you some of the ideas I thought of. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to just show them silently to you. Oops, wrong computer. So, before we hear from our panelists, I'd like to clap them in and also clap in Just Society. And if you will follow me in clapping, so I'm going to stand here so you can see me. Thank you. I just want to say, I heard your power, and like Grace Shimizu said, you have collective power. Okay, Jeff?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Matsuoka, and I represent the Campaign for Justice, Redress Now, for Japanese Latin Americans. And I'm really privileged to be here to talk to you here on this, I think, very appropriate time, and also a very appropriately titled session, Rising Together, Building Our Movements for Justice and Reparations. So Grace told you some of the history, of what's been going on, but today I'm going to just tell you kind of more, or go into more detail about what the Campaign for Justice has been, where we've been, and where we're going, basically. You might remember this morning, Grace Shimizu was in the plenary session sort of telling you a little bit about what we're due, but today you're going to hear from me a little more about what we're going to do. So hopefully this will be educational for you. But first, a little bit about me. Well, I'm a son, like Grace mentioned here, of a Crystal City attorney. Her name is Kyoka Gabriela Naganuma. She was born in Callao, Peru, she was taken when our family was taken, abducted essentially from Callao. My grandfather owned a laundromat in Callao, Peru, a very successful laundromat, and as you saw this morning in some of the history that led up to what was going on in Peru. The year before, 1940, there were riots, basically, against the Japanese Peruvian community because people were, with the war, hysteria and all that, there was a lot of prejudice or racial hate, basically, toward Japanese Peruvians. So, we're not going to go over the history. We went over the history of why, how they made the secret deal to bring, my family, as well as many other, actually, families throughout Peru, of Japanese descent to America. But, when she was about a teenager, her family was brought from Callao to this camp here at Crystal City, Texas, the family internment camp. So they were here until about 1947, I think, and they were here even after the war. But thanks, and of course, as you saw this morning, many Japanese Peruvians, were deported basically to Japan. Fortunately, my family, we were so lucky to meet Reverend Yoshiaki Fukuda, who, if you look in your booklet, in the Crystal City booklet, you'll see a biography of him. And he was a minister of the Konko Church of San Francisco, and he was very much of a activist. And he befriended our family and also sponsored basically our family to stay in the United States, and also bring them to San Francisco, where the Konko Church was. So our family is so grateful, basically, to Reverend Fukuda for sponsoring us and letting us fight deportation, because they really wanted to deport our family, to Japan. So, they were illegal aliens, my family. So I remember my mother used to tell me, we had to report to the INS in those days, the Immigration Naturalization Service, every month. Without, having reporting, they'd be deported. Well, if you think about it, the same thing is happening today. I mean, we're seeing the same situation here with so-called, illegal, quote-unquote, illegal aliens. They need to report. And, as we've seen, some of them are doing what they've been told to do, and yet they get imprisoned, basically, and deported. So once again, we see history repeating itself, which is, a terrible thing. But there you have it in my family history, as well as many other Peruvians who fought deportation and stayed in the United States. So finally, in 1952, there was finally a law passed. I forget the name of the law, but anyway, it sort of provided a path, basically, to staying as a permanent resident in this country. And eventually, my mother became a naturalized U.S. citizen. I remember when I was a kid, she used to, because there was no babysitter, she used to take my sister and I to the high school at nighttime, where she had to take classes, right, to become an American citizen. I remember that. But she was so proud to become an American citizen. So, once again, that's another thing about immigrants. Immigrants, want to they want to contribute, basically, to American society. And, this is the story of America. And this is what happened to my mother, even though, she sort of came here against her will, essentially. So finally, I remember growing up, and, admittedly, I was not too interested, as a kid, and quite frankly, my mother really didn't say very much either about what was going on. But I do remember they used to have purukais, and you'll be going to a purukai tonight. But they used to have purukais around the country, and they did have one in San Francisco. I believe it was in 1996. And I remember going to that, and I probably met a lot of the people, who were my mother's friends. I don't remember very much of it, but I remember that, Peruvians love to have parties, and it was a great, it was a fun event. So that kind of, impressed me that, my mother was once, a young woman, and she, had a good time with her friends. She told me all kinds of strange, well, for me anyway, kind of amazing stories about growing up in Peru. But so anyway, that got me interested a little bit in learning more about my mother's history. And finally, we did visit Peru about 10 years ago now. Myself, my wife, who's here, Kemi. Also, my uncle, who isn't here, who also, was also deported when he was a young boy, and his wife. And, we saw the neighborhood where, my mother and her family grew up. The building that they lived in now is an empty lot, at least it was back then in 2016. I don't know what it is now. But that was the neighborhood, the Japanese Peruvians lived in, at least one of the bigger neighborhoods in Callao. And my grandfather, he was actually at one time he was a board president of a Japanese Spanish language elementary school. It's a bilingual school to educate, Japanese Peruvians. And amazingly enough, it's called the Jose Galvez School. Amazingly enough, we went there. It's still, by the way, running even today. And on the picture, they have a picture in the office of all the, presidents of the boards who've served. And sure enough, there's my grandfather's picture up there. And that was amazing to see that, 40, 50 years later. So anyway, all this sort of history eventually got me to finally join the CFJ. I've only been there for about 3 years, but I think I've learned a lot, basically, in working with the CFJ and trying to bring this history more, vividly, so that people understand. I'm amazed when you go talk when I talk to audiences about this. They're always amazed. Boy, did that really happen? Did the United States really deport people, kidnap people from Latin America? They have no ideas about stuff like this. They're just shocked. So, obviously education is an important part of our advocacy, and that's what we need to do. Everybody here should really talk to your friends or say that, this really happened, because, as we're trying to erase history here, and we can't let that happen. So anyway, enough about me. Oh, this, by the way, just for information, this is my family here at Crystal City, Texas, and my mother actually, I believe, is the second from the right. And actually, you know, my cousins are here, who's sitting in the front row, and their mother, I believe, is also in that picture right there.
First one on the right.
Oh, the first one on the right, yeah. So, yeah, that's my father, my grandfather, Iwaichi Naganuma, and my grandmother. So, you know, those days they had large families. And they had 7 kids. There actually is unfortunately, there was another son that passed away while he was young in Peru. So he isn't in this picture. But yeah, apparently that's taken from here, Crystal City, Texas.
Uncle Tony is
Oh, Uncle, yeah, my Kazuma Naganuma, who, by the way, is one of the co-chairs, or he was, you know, he's actually in that picture, too. He's the youngest kid. So, anyway, so I want to talk to you now about more about what's been going on as far as Japanese Latin American redress. So, obviously a very landmark decision as far as, civil rights for Japanese and Japanese Americans was the passage of the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, which, basically recognized the injustices of the Japanese American incarceration and imprisonment, and it gave it gave compensation, monetary compensation. I believe it's $20,000 plus an apology, and also funding to have educational programs, right, so that people know about this history of incarceration and imprisonment, and with of course the aim of it not being continued again. So that was a landmark certainly for the Japanese Americans. Unfortunately, though, as a class, Japanese internees who were not basically American citizens or who were not living in the United States as legal permanent residents during that time were excluded. And that includes, of course, all the Latin Americans. Because once again, at that time, remember, they were quote-unquote illegal aliens. So they didn't qualify as a class to be as part of the Civil Liberties Act recompensation. So as a result, so after that period of time until now, there have been various attempts to try to, give Japanese Latin Americans full recognition and redress in the same manner that Japanese Americans were also given redress through the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. So through the 1990s and the 2000s, there have been various attempts. I mean, we've had numerous lawsuits against the government. We've had 2 legislative bills, basically, that would promote JLA redress. Unfortunately, none of those attempts succeeded, except for one, which, by the way, is the third one, Mochizuki and all in the USA. That was a settlement in 1999. Carmen Mochizuki was the plaintiff in this case, and in fact, they did in fact gain some recompense from the United States government. But remember, it's $5,000, not $20,000. This is what the JAs got, and they did get a presidential letter of apology, but unfortunately, it wasn't. If you look at it, it's almost like a memo. It's not really like a signed letter, from the president, which is what the JAs got. So, it's not the same. And unfortunately, many JLAs, a lot of JAs did in fact take the settlement, but other JLAs decided not to do that. So therefore, we had the landmark Art Shibayama decided not to take the settlement, and he sued in the U.S. District Court in 1999. Eventually, all of his attempts were dismissed. So finally, they went to the international court, the IACHS, which is in Washington, D.C. This is actually the international Pan-American. It includes the U.S., a lot of South American countries, Panama. So this is supposed to be, sort of an inter-American, court, an international court. And amazingly enough, it took a long time, but he filed his lawsuit in 2003, but the IACHS ruled in his favor in 2020. So this was a landmark decision, right, for us. That means that, in fact, our case did have merit. So, okay, since then, going to 2002, President Biden usually had a manual message on the Day of Remembrance. This is of course, February 19th, 1942 was the anniversary of the signing of EO 9066, which authorized the incarceration of Japanese Americans and also into the internment camp. So he wrote an annual letter. Amazingly enough, in 2022, he mentioned the JLA experience for the first and it turns out the last time, where he did recognize that the JLAs had not been recompensed, and he did in fact recognize JLAs. Now, that's great. I mean, so we actually had a consultation with the Biden administration, with Erika Morisuke, I believe was her name. She was the Biden administration liaison for Asian affairs, and she recommended that we go through Congress. They would not do an executive action, essentially. So we tried doing that, but then Trump got elected. And as you know, and also the Republicans have taken both sides of the House. So hence, that kind of put everything to a standstill, essentially. So unfortunately, our legislative actions are kind of stalled right now, but I think in the interim, though, I think we've decided that we need to sort of go into coalition with other groups. And that's why we've joined the AEA coalition, which with Catherine Ebright mentioned this morning, to try to repeal the Alien Enemy Act, which, by the way, was what was used basically to intern us. We were alien enemies, right? So, and to deport us. So anyway, the thing is that obviously our big initiative is to support the repeal of the Alien Enemy Act as part of the AEO coalition. We want to also find and organize descendants in the U.S. and Japan. Now, interestingly enough, there's some people from Japan here today. And some of them are descendants of people who were deported to Japan. So we're trying to find them to try to see if we could help them, basically, because they have some very interesting stories, too. And they need justice, like us here in America. We plan to tour the Alien Enemy Files. You might, when you have a chance, go over there to the other room, and we have an exhibit called the Alien Enemy Files, which kind of details the history that I'm telling you about right now. Also, we're also gathering oral histories of survivors and their descendants through the JPOHP. We have another organization that basically has an archive of sort of first-hand oral histories of the Japanese Latin American incarceration and experience, because we want to retain that after these people have passed on for history. Also, we need to expand the narrative. As I say, we need to stay connected with former, also Italian and German, like Trudy, who was here this morning, Crystal City survivors and their descendants. And finally, of course, we are still seeking the U.S. to comply with the IACHS Shibayama ruling, so that we can then have full justice for Japanese Latin Americans who are, basically victims of essentially what we call a war crime. It's really what it is. It's a war crime. So here's our conclusion. So JLA redress is a transnational movement, as I mentioned. It involves people in the United States, Japan, and Peru, and other Latin American countries besides Peru. We want to promote, obviously, greater awareness of JLA history and redress efforts, and also to highlight the parallels, right? What's happening today? What's happening to us, to our, just as is happening again today, which is, we can't repeat history. We need to create solidarity with other reparation movements, including, for instance, the black reparation movements. And finally, we want to also validate as I mentioned, the IACHS Shima rulings, which validates, on an international scale that the JLA abduction and internment was a war crime. So my time's up, but thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jun Hamamoto. I'm a descendant of incarcerees at Manzanar. Oh, let me forward this. Incarcerees at Manzanar and Poston. My parents were Kibenises. I've been teaching at San Quentin State Prison for over 20 years and teaching Dharma School at Buddhist Church of Oakland for over 20 years. I want to talk about the healing and transformative power of art. And I've witnessed firsthand the transformation of prisoners over 20 years in the art programs that I've been teaching, origami and open studio, and also in various groups that I've sponsored. I've been a sponsor for the Native Hawaiian group, Native American Culture Night, Juvenile Lifer group, many groups that can't meet without a sponsor and from the outside. So I've often helped groups kind of get organized, get started until I could find like a permanent sponsor. But I found a kumu to take over the Native Hawaiian group to teach Hawaiian chanting and hula. So I've been a sponsor for many groups, mostly just to make sure that they keep going and that they get somebody very dedicated and and qualified for the group. So I also want to talk about something that I feel is a very small thing that I do in teaching origami and art, and which I found has actually had a really large impact on the students, on the prisoners. And we do a little bit of mindfulness along with origami. And it's amazing to me how just a little bit of effort on my part in teaching, how people feel very supported and valued, and it makes a really big impact actually on their lives, because so many people have been failed by their families, by the school system that should be supporting them, but they didn't get the support that they needed, and they end up incarcerated. When I did sponsor the Juvenile Lifer group, it was men who were serving life sentences for crimes that they committed as children. And many at the time, they had no hope of ever getting out of prison. So we're coming from a place of, I'm going to die in prison, but I still want to get educated and learn and do art. Things have changed since then, and people, juvenile lifers are now having the opportunity to be released. So I'm working with people that have been demonized and not supported by their families, by the school systems, by society. So these are three beautiful origami butterflies folded by my students and painted. And this is a Buddhist ceremony in 2012 where these men took the Buddhist precepts to live the Buddhist values. And this is my origami class at San Quentin. And we did this, it's a really joyful class. We have a lot of fun, and we did a project with these Korean monastics who were going to Jeju to protest the THAAD nuclear missile project, and would go every morning and chant outside the gates. And they had asked for blue origami butterflies, so our class made hundreds of them, and somebody brought those over to Korea. These are three of my guys that were in the Native American Culture Night, making origami cranes for an exhibit that we had at Oakland Asian Cultural Center, and Hearts of Love project to students who really embody hearts of love. Oh, and I want to say that I had every student's name on here, but because almost every one of these students and the ones that are post-incarceration or on deportation orders, we decided to take the names out because we don't want to put them at risk right now. I have students now who are having parole hearing dates that they've actually asked to postpone because they don't want to get out right now because they're worried they're going to just get deported. More artwork from students inside. And this is a support rally for one of our students. We go very often to 630 Sampson Street in San Francisco to support people at their ICE check-ins. And we take a big group if they want a group of supporters. Sometimes they want to be very low-key. But when they go upstairs with their attorney or one person to support them, we don't know if they're going to come back out. They can be just detained by ICE, and we might never see them again. These are some students that got out right at the beginning of COVID, and we were going every week, well, actually quite earlier than COVID, we were going every week to the park across the street from Buddhist Church of Oakland to be part of a community First Wednesday support project with a food bank and Oakland Asian Cultural Services, Asian Health Services. So we would have an origami table, and kids and people of all ages would come by for origami. The picture on the right is welcome home for about 6 formerly incarcerated people, a barbecue at a re-entry home that had just started up. Each person served over 20 years in prison, so collective time of probably about 120 years in prison. And 3 of my students on the left came to our New Year's Eve Joya A service at Buddhist Church of Oakland, and one of their moms came also. Okay, a rally for Stop Asian Hate with former students, and solidarity with Black and Asian unity. And this was a vigil outside the gates of San Quentin because to remember people who passed from COVID inside. San Quentin had the highest number of COVID deaths in the prison system in California. And on the far left of the photo is a Buddhist teacher who passed a few months ago. She used to come in to San Quentin. Her name is Joanna Macy. She started a movement called The Work That Reconnects, which lives on, and it's all over the world now. It's just beautiful teacher. But we have this very beautiful memorial right outside the gates of San Quentin Prison. One of my former students, we volunteered for another Stop Asian Hate Hearts of Love project that the Origami Store Paper Tree had sponsored, and yeah, and a little one folding with us. More students volunteering to teach the public origami. And then a former student who was deported in 2022, who was part of the San Quentin Buddhist group, part of the Asian American Studies group. He was a leader, facilitator, very just an amazing person. He was taken by 5 ICE agents and in shackles, his arms to his waist and his legs shackled, publicly in the boarding area of the commercial Singapore Airlines, in front of the whole group of people, in shackles, walked onto the plane, and then the shackles were taken off, but 3 ICE agents flew all the way to Cambodia with him, where they released him, and a couple of re-entry folks picked him up at the airport. Then I went 2 months ago to Cambodia, so I visited for formerly incarcerated students. So here they are on the left. They're all teaching English. There's a certification process to teach, and they're all doing, relatively very well. They miss their families. They have no chance of coming home for 10 years to apply to possibly come to visit. I went with one of the students to his home village and for a Buddhist ceremony, and was able to teach some children how to make hearts, but then the adults wanted to join in, so we had a really fun origami session there. We're going to do, I think we have some time, Tree in the Storm, mindfulness meditation, and you have some origami paper. This is an actual diagram cartoon made by Mark Bithelow, who unfortunately passed away 2 years ago. But it's a really cool, simple origami tree, and we do a meditation. We're going to just do a very short, abbreviated meditation of this. So I'll talk about that first, and then we'll fold the tree. So we are thinking about a tree in a storm and how the branches and the leaves are being whipped around by the rain and the wind, and like our mind, very scattered and very distracted, and sometimes very anxious and unable to focus. This is a good meditation to do in a very disturbed state, or just if you're feeling a little anxiety, a little stress. And you can do this in a couple of ways. One is a 5-finger or 10-finger meditation where you just touch each finger to your thumb. And each time you breathe in and you breathe out. That way, or you can do it as the blooming of a flower or blooming of a lotus. You put your hand in a very loose fist, your fingers together, breathing in, and then you breathe out the blooming of a flower. So breathe in and breathe out. So if you'd like to close your eyes, we'll do like 10 breaths, either fingers to the thumb on both hands, or the blooming of a flower. So we'll go breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And just follow your natural breath. Breathing in, I am solid. Breathing out as a mountain. Breathing in, I am fresh. Breathing out as the dew. Breathing in, I feel there is space. Breathing out deep inside of me. Breathing in, I am free. Breathing out, I am free. Breathing in, I am blooming. Breathing out like a flower. Last one, breathing in, I am free. Breathing out, I am free. So thank you for doing the meditation. So we often do a meditation in class, and now we're going to make our tree. So there's origami paper on the table. We're going to take it and put the pattern side down on the table, and you're going to fold a diagonal. Before you fold, match the corners, the top corners, really carefully. Take the time to do that. Run your finger down the center, like your index finger on the table down the center, and then go left and right. That'll lock the corners. Okay, then open and bring one edge to the center line, and then bring the opposite edge. So left and right, you're going to fold to the center line. And it's kind of on the diagram. It's the step on the left where these two sides come together, just above the tree, just above the tree. So you have like a kite or an ice cream cone? Kite or ice cream cone? Okay, the next step is just a little bit tricky. So you're looking at the pattern side, not the color change side, the pattern side, and you're going to bring this folded edge to the center line. But before you do, you're going to grab that folded edge and you're going to let the back flip out. You're not going to crease the whole thing. So you bring this folded edge to the center line while letting the back flip out. So you get the side of the tree. On this side. Bring this over, but let this piece flip out and then go to the center.
I don't think I did this right. Can you go through that again?
Yeah, that's the step after the ice cream cone one. It doesn't really show how. Okay, so you want to, when you do the fold, you don't want to fold all the layers. We're going to let this flip out.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I got lost when I folded it in. What do I do after this?
I should have brought really
Oh, like that. Okay, like that. Oh, I see.
Like that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but this side also.
Oh, I thought they. Okay.
Okay, we're almost done with the tree.
Let me see. Did you get it? It looks like it.
Okay, so we're all here. Should I keep going? Okay, we're all here, and see where the color changes? You've got your pattern and then the solid color. Right where that color changes, you're going to flip that triangle up.
Okay.
So it's going to be a base of the tree. Right at the color change, flip this up. It's the on the diagram just to the right of her head. Okay, and then the very last step is you make a mountain fold through the middle. So the mountain fold, you just fold it in half with the folded in half like this, mountain fold. And it probably won't stand up on the tablecloth. I was having a problem with that. But if you're on a solid, it will stand up. So I can come around after the whole thing is over. If anybody wants to fold with me, I'll come to one of the tables when we're done. And sorry to rush you guys through this. I'll come by after the panel is done. Oh, yay! Good job. Yeah, it's hard on the tablecloth. Yeah. Okay, so sorry I'm going a little over. This is my last slide. I want to show this beautiful origami tsuru crane made by my dear friend Akemi Yamane Ina, who passed away a couple months ago, but she was an amazing artist and brought her beautiful cranes to many, many ice protests because she was also born in a concentration camp, as was her husband. So it's just a beautiful memorial with all of her cranes. We're going to try to have an exhibit of her work in the Japanese American at Ninjas in San Francisco. So just a couple closing things. I just want to say that origami has been a truly present moment kind of meditation with healing and transformative powers that I've seen, that I've witnessed firsthand, being part of the prison art program and the Buddhist Sangha in the prison, and with my Dharma school students. Feeling supported and valued has an amazing amount of power in people's lives, more than I could ever imagine. I've been, told afterwards. I'm also trying to build incarceration, post-incarceration support, because so many of my students, majority of them, are on ICE deportation orders, and it is such a horribly, horribly stressful time for them right now. So I'm trying to do what I can to support them. And thank you all very much.
I kind of want to. Oh, it's okay. Is this a clicker? Yes.
I was just using
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I speak a lot with my hands, so I'll just leave it here. Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Please continue working on your beautiful trees. I think it's a really good practice also to listen and do things with our hands, especially for us neurodivergent folks. So thank you so much to everyone who put this together. My name is Isabel Cepeda. I'm one of the co-founders of Sueños Sin Fronteras, and today we're going to talk about Sueños Sin Fronteras is a practice of solidarity and collective care. I want to take a moment to show gratitude to the spirits and caretakers of this land, the Cuauhtecan native peoples of these territories, and honor and deep gratitude to your ancestors and my ancestors for allowing us to gather here to remember and to connect and to strategize, right? Because I feel like hearing from you all, thank you so much. I feel so inspired, and I know Vidi, so I know she's inspiring as well. Thank you for this space and for gathering us here today. About Sueños Sin Fronteras. Sueños Sin Fronteras is Spanish for Dreams Without Borders. And so in 2018, I'm one of the co-founders of Sueños Sin Fronteras, and this is our mission. Our mission is that we're a Latina-led grassroots collective that aims to improve pregnancy, birth, and postpartum outcomes for immigrant, asylum-seeking women, undocumented women, and their families in San Antonio. We do this through mutual aid, education, and advocacy. This is our team. These are my compañeras, my comadres. Mariela Hasso on the left. She's a co-director and has an MSSW and has been part of Sueños since 2022. Laura Molinar. She's also the co-director and co-founder, and she also has an MSSW. And myself, Isabel Cepeda. I'm the perinatal community health worker, and I'm also the co-founder. A little bit about me. I was born in Jalisco, Mexico, and migrated to the United States when I was 8 years old. My family migrated to California, to the Coachella Valley it's an agricultural town, a lot of immigrant families there. And I have been in Yanaguana for 10 years. So I migrated again from California to San Antonio. And I want to explain a little bit about the framework that we use in Sueños, because it's a framework around reproductive justice. There are a lot of misconceptions of what reproductive justice means, so I just want to share it with everyone. A lot of people, when they hear reproductive justice, they might think abortion, which we are pro-abortion at Sueños Sin Fronteras, but it's not the only focus of reproductive health, right? It is also the right. So in 1994, Black women said this idea of like pro-choice it doesn't encompass our lived experiences as Black women. We are dealing with more than just choice. Some of us don't even have a choice, really. So they expanded this understanding that reproductive justice is the right to not have children, the right to have children, and the right to parent the children that we have chosen to have in safe and sustainable ways. So this recognizes that, reproductive justice is not only about abortion access and choice, but also it's about being able to have safe, clean water to raise our children, safe and clean environments, access to, a lot of things so food, access to being able to be safe without violence, without incarceration, without detention, without ICE harassing us outside of our homes or at the grocery store down the way. So it's all of these ideas, right? It includes race, class, gender, immigration status, disability, and sexual orientation. And within reproductive justice, there's a specific framework movement that is birth justice. So this is a focus of Sueños Sin Fronteras as well, where we talk about the importance of safe, respectful, and empowering childbirth experiences, free from coercion, discrimination, and systemic harm. So Texas has a very high mortality rate for infants, but also for pregnant women who are giving birth. The highest rates are amongst Black women, and right behind it is Native American women and Latino women. And so I know that has been devastating to hear, and with the recent abortion bans here in Texas, that has been increasing the criminalization of people having reproductive emergencies, such as miscarriages, such as having sepsis, dying from sepsis because doctors can't provide an abortion to save a person's life. And so that is the framework around reproductive justice. The injustices that we're seeing here in Texas, specifically in San Antonio, is that immigrant communities are under constant threat, surveillance, and criminalization simply for existing. Abortion bans and reproductive health restrictions in Texas have made care unattainable and dangerous for pregnant and birthing immigrants. Partners are detained or deported, leaving women to navigate pregnancy, birth, and postpartum and parenting alone. This morning, I received a call from a woman who just gave birth 5 days ago, and her husband was detained at the grocery store where they go by plainclothes ICE agents, and she's devastated. It was their first child. They were very happy, and we're looking forward to raising that child together. And now he's in Carnes Detention Center, which is in a rural community, very difficult to get there. But also because she herself is undocumented, she doesn't have the identifications or paperwork to even visit him if she wanted to. Because to visit someone in detention, you have to have an ID, right? So some sort of ID, and not a passport, but a U.S. ID. So she is just devastated. And we know that complications not only happen in the birth process or in the prenatal process, but also in the 4th trimester and the postpartum. The postpartum time is a very tender time for birthing people. So all of this just increases the possibilities of postpartum depression, anxiety, and all of those mood disorders that can sometimes happen in the postpartum period. And this is just someone that we've been in community with for the past 6 months during her pregnancy, and to now be here is just devastating for her. Basic needs are under attack because many families are afraid to renew their SNAP. SNAP is the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or seek assistance for fear of exposing their immigration status. So SNAP is something that you have to renew, sometimes every 3 months, sometimes every 6 months. And folks are now also being afraid of renewing those social services that their children have all the rights to, because their children are U.S. citizens, but because of their own personal status, they are afraid to do that. So food insecurity is something that the immigrant community is facing. and that's something that we address, but it's something that folks are also afraid to even go to the food bank sometimes, because I don't know if y'all have been to the food bank, but they ask you a lot of questions, a lot of questions. So that also becomes a roadblock because people are afraid to disclose too much. And the loss of federal funding for health facilities has also severely limited where people can safely access care. At the moment, to be able to receive Title 10, so it's a program, a federal program that provides free family planning services and health checkups. There's only one hospital that in San Antonio that has access to Title 10. So all of the other federally funded facilities or clinics no longer have that. So there's only one hospital or the university system that has access to Title 10. So now it's like 3 months in advance, right? You have to make an appointment, then you got to wait 3 months to see someone. And in those 3 months, you might need some sort of family planning support that you might not be able to afford. So then that also causes other things, right? So there might be a pregnancy, an unwanted pregnancy, or a STD, STIs that you can't get treatment for. So all of these things are really just major roadblocks and challenges for the immigrant community here, specifically in San Antonio. And immigrant justice, we say that we work at the intersection of immigrant justice and reproductive justice, which says that all essential needs should be met for undocumented communities, ensuring access to healthcare, education, and housing. And in Texas has one of the lowest rates of healthcare enrollment in the nation. So in some counties, even up to 20% of women don't have healthcare, access to some sort of healthcare. I'm sorry, not healthcare, but are able health insurance to get health insurance. And in Texas, if you are undocumented and pregnant, you have access to CHIP perinatal, and then that ends after 6 weeks postpartum. So then if you have anything else come up after those 6 weeks, there are very few options, and a lot of them sometimes aren't as accessible. There are like payment plans and things like that, or on a scale payments, but even that is difficult for some people that are living paycheck to paycheck and can barely afford their needs. So part of immigrant justice also says is the abolition of detention, which we are completely for, and we need those especially the private detention centers, thank you, to be eliminated. These are some of the highlights throughout the years that we have done. We created the shower project for people, so when people were coming in from the border, it was like 5 days since their last shower because they couldn't get any access to water, clean water, to shower and bathe themselves, So we did the showers for the people. We created a Birth Justice Mutual Aid Fund where 100% of the money goes directly to the hands of the immigrant community. We don't keep any of that for staff or anything like that. So our mutual aid fund, we've redistributed over $200,000 to about 5,000 people in the community. We've created reproductive health kits and provided sex ed. We've done diaper drives. We created the first Spanish postpartum circle in the city of San Antonio, which is odd because there's over 60% of Hispanics or Latinos in the city, but very few Spanish focused postpartum care. And we have a community closet. These are some pictures of the work that we've done. We've noticed that gathering is essential for relationship building and trust building, to build solidarity and to build movement power. So we do a lot of in-person gatherings, and we also focus trauma-informed care. So we have a grounding space. We know that when folks are carrying a lot of things, it's very important to be intentional in opening the space and in closing those space. So that we're able to move along with our day. So also childcare. Childcare is essential when organizing with women, especially women or parents who have children. Here you see there's a little a little baby sleeping there, and there was a circle around that, and that's how we gathered. The baby's in the middle and the mothers around them. We have a community closet, and the community closet is all donation based, where we gather clothes, baby supplies, toddler things also, and diapers, and the families get to go and choose whatever they need for their familias. We create postpartum support kits. People who have given birth need a lot of help. I know that in collective cultures, that's kind of like a no-brainer. But sometimes when people migrate, they don't have that support anymore. They don't have the aunties and the grandmas that can help them. So we create postpartum kits for the people who have given birth. They include food, vitamins, diapers, pads, peri bottles, all the things that postpartum people need. And we also provide traditional herbal medicine. So as you see, some medicines that are really good for postpartum care are alfalfa, oat straw, nettles, and our grandma medicine that we call manzanilla or chamomile, which I'm sure you all might know her. And we do all this in coalition. We don't do this alone, and we have to do it together. This is why we're so honored to be here with you all. We've participated in circle keeping trainings. We participated in grants with the city where we discuss how immigrant health is public health. It's the same, it's community. And collective care. Accompaniment is the most powerful tool that interrupts violence and isolation. And how we heard from our previous speaker, just caring about people, making that phone call, those wellness checks, check-ins, and asking them, how are you? How's your postpartum? How are you feeling today? Just knowing, that means so much to people, those check-ins, those connections. And it not only takes a village to raise a child, but also to take care of a birthing person. So when you go check in with the person that just gave birth, don't just focus on the baby, also ask them how they're doing. What can I show up with food, show up with something, or be ready to do some chores, because that is what birthing people need. As the abolitionist Mariam Kaba teaches us, hope is a practice, not a feeling or toxic positivity. It is action and something that we commit to do even when it's inconvenient. I invite you to take care of birthing people in your communities, because when birthing people are resourced, safe, and supported, entire communities benefit. Make space in the movement for undocumented immigrants. Hire them, pay them well, co-create with them, and follow their lead. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here. I know I'm the last speaker. We're almost done. Hopefully you have a little bit of energy left. And I'll try to also be brief in sharing a little bit about my work. But because my work with M-Schools comes from a very personal place, I wanted to share with you my story and how M-Schools, or the reason behind M-Schools. So Miri Carrizales, I came to the U.S. when I was 11 years old by a courageous decision of my mother, who grabbed my hand, grabbed my sister's hand, who was 9 years old, and we walked through the Arizona desert. I included a picture in there from the town that we came in Agua Prieta, through the Arizona desert on an August day. I remember walking for 6 hours, and reflecting on that experience, I just remember feeling the warmth of my mother's hand and knowing that I was safe. So crossing the Arizona desert for me was just like an experience of love of a mother who wanted the very best for her kids. So I'm so grateful that she made that decision, and that she reminded me and kept me safe. I came to Dallas and started school right away. And I remember that early on in those early days in school that my mother will say, you don't tell anyone where you come from. We were undocumented, didn't have a legal status here, and it was important for my mom to keep that a secret. So I went through middle school, most of high school without letting anybody know that this was my situation. And honestly, it never came up. Like, I didn't feel like that was something that I needed to share until it was time for me to apply to go to college. I remember all of my friends were talking about going to college, so I wanted to be also a cool kid, and I wanted to go to college. And when I went to my high school counselor's office to ask him for support, I remember he said, well, everything looks good, but you left the social security number blank. You're gonna need that. And when I told him that I didn't have one, he was surprised because he hadn't heard of students not having that number. And he said, because he had every intention to help me go to college, he said, I'm gonna call immigration to see how they can get you a social security number because I want you to go to college. So he called someone and he put me on the phone with this person. I'm not sure who he called, but I remember this person asking me how I came here, and if I knew the type of immigration status or documentations that we've had. And I remember feeling or getting this feeling like something was wrong. So I told him I didn't have this information, but I was gonna ask my parents and call him back. And that was the last time I went to my high school counselor's office. And that was when I realized, like, maybe having this number is going to be the reason why I don't get to accomplish or do the things that I always dreamed of. So I was very disappointed and I was very angry. And I remember a mentor at that time saying something like, well, what are you gonna do about it? And I took it as a challenge, and maybe it was part of that courage that was inherited, passed on to me from my ancestors, from my mother. And I reached out to a newspaper in Dallas, and I said, I want to tell my story. So this newspaper wrote a story about, me and my sister. And literally, like, on the title said, like, 2 undocumented sisters want to go to college. And somebody read that story and reached out to me. And this student, who was also undocumented herself, she was attending the University of Texas in Austin, she reached out and said, you can go to college, and this is how. Like, this stranger, this student that read my story is the reason why I'm even here today, why I have a college degree. And I remember feeling how unfair and unjust that is, that I did not learn about the opportunities that I had through my educators, through my teachers, that I learned it, and I got lucky. So I decided to do something about it, to rise, and I started a small organization as part of my church. And in a way, I wanted to tell everybody that was in my situation that they could go to college. And remember organizing people and started telling them, this is how I did it, this is how you need to do it. And that's how really it started. I didn't have the opportunity to adjust my status until 3 years after graduating from college. So I had 2 college degrees, I was still undocumented, and I was working in random jobs wherever they will hire me that didn't require a social security number. I was wiping tables. I remember telling people, as I was asking for babysitting jobs, they were asking me, well, you have a degree, like, why you want to do babysitting? And I would just come up with all kinds of stories because I didn't want to tell them, and I couldn't tell them that I couldn't work legally, and that's why I couldn't utilize my college degree. So when I had the opportunity to adjust my status, I wanted to work in something that had to do with education. I wanted to change what I navigated, the experiences that I had. I wanted to change that for other students, other people like me who had come to this country and who didn't have an immigration status. So After working with different nonprofits in 2018, I decided to start this organization called M-Schools, which comes from immigration, which is what the IMM means, and then schools, which is this link of immigration and education. So the mission of M-Schools is that we support teachers and school leaders to create positive school culture and climate for all of our students, parents and caregivers, regardless of immigration status. In this country, every person, regardless of the immigration status, have the legal right to be in our schools. By law, every student, even if they're undocumented or their parents are undocumented, have the legal right to be in our schools. So as part of M-Schools, it is our job to make sure that schools know that, and that schools are creating a space where our students feel like they belong, where they feel valued and they feel nurtured, because that is what the responsibility of schools are. So we provide, professional development, and we help school districts in providing this type of support for their students. And while we started here in San Antonio, right now we're operating across Texas, in New York, in New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And as of this year, we have provided trainings to educators across 21 states. So this is important, and the reason why I decided to focus in schools, besides my own experience of being an immigrant myself, I knew that I was not the only one, right? Right now, there's 18 million students, or 1 in 4 U.S. children who reside with an immigrant family. So this is 1 out of 4 kids in our schools. And then it's really important, as an immigrant myself, I remember going into schools and knowing that I was an immigrant. I remember going into the schools being afraid that I might go back to school, back home, and not see my parents. So being an immigrant is something that kids don't get to leave behind the door when they come inside of our schools. So it's important that we prepared and equipped educators to support these students when they're in our schools. And I know that you've been hearing this also from the different speakers, but history unfortunately is repeating itself, right? This immigration enforcement actions, the detention, the separation of families is something that didn't just start 8 years ago with Trump's first term. It didn't just start in January. It has been happening, and it keeps repeating. So now they're targeting and continue to target immigrant families who are undocumented, and one of the places where we see the impact first is in our schools. Every time there is a raid, the first thing that happens the next day is that thousands of students miss school. Okay, so we've seen, I know in 2017 in Las Cruces, New Mexico, the school district in one day saw 2,000 students miss school. So we cannot be teachers, we cannot be educators if kids don't show up. And I think that what is happening right now is showing people that, we might be targeting the parents, but we are really having a detrimental impact on the students themselves, on children who do not longer feel safe coming into our schools. I have so many messages from families who are telling me that they're not bringing their kids because they're afraid that immigration might be in the schools, that immigration might detain them as they're driving their kids to school. So this is a crisis that is not only impacting us now, but it will impact us for a long time, because what they're doing is that they're preventing our kids from getting an education. They're instilling fear in our communities to the point where they cannot even leave their homes. And I was in a conversation yesterday, and I asked a group of funders, so I was like, close your eyes and imagine that you're a student yourself, maybe 8, 10, 15 years old, and imagine being afraid to go to school. How many of you, raise your hand if you've been afraid to go to school? if I were to ask that question to the families that we're serving, every single one of them will raise their hand. And I cannot even comprehend being afraid to go to schools, the same places that are meant to protect us, right? Schools are sanctuaries. So that is what is happening in part of the work that we're doing with M Schools. So our approach and the work that we do is that we are training educators, teachers on how to support this population. How do you have conversations with students? How do you make sure that you understand the policies and the law so that you're not asking a family to self-identify or asking a family for their immigration status as a way for you to support them? So equipping educators is key to the work that we do. We're also elevating the power of our students and their families by sharing with them what their constitutional rights are. And right now, I know that those constitutional rights are being violated. And even in this moment in time, again, it's really important that we can lean back on the Constitution has not changed, the laws have not changed, we still have that right, and we need to make sure that we continue to defend those rights that families have. We also brought in an immigration attorney earlier this year, and we have already done 150 free legal consultations with many of our immigration attorneys representing some of these families in court. And then the last thing too, similar to Sueños Sin Fronteras, we have been able to raise and distribute funding to undocumented families who don't have any access to loans or federal assistance. And many of this type of financial assistance go to paying rent or food or very essential necessities for our community. And then this is the impact that we've had in the last 8 years since the founding of M Schools. We have been able to train, support over 40,000 students, families, and educators across New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Texas, and also along with the other states, or 21 other states. 90% of the educators that have been in our programs have said that they feel better equipped to support their immigrant students. We've had 97% of families report that they have gained a greater access to immigration and education resources due to our programs. We've deployed over 400,000 in direct financial assistance to undocumented families across the states, done over 100 legal consultations, and we're also right now have a partnership with Rutgers University where we're doing some research around effective practices in the schools, right? Like we need to validate the work that we're doing, and there's a lot of research about all the deficiencies, all the things that, the challenges, but there's also beautiful things happening, and we need to make sure that those are documented. So we're doing that through these partnerships with the university. And that is all I have. I just want to say thank you again for inviting me. Keep supporting each other and supporting our immigrant community. Right now I'm seeing that the beautiful thing about us as people of color is that we got us. We got us. Nobody's gonna come save us. We got us. And I'm seeing that through like neighbors who are helping families who are being detained and taking their kids to school or going to the grocery store. Like that's how we're gonna get through this, because our ancestors have experienced it. We've inherited those genes, right? We're gonna get through this and we're gonna win. So thank you all so much.
Wow, thank you to our great panel. I think you've brought to us a vision of hope, a vision of compassion, a vision of change, and a vision of support. You know, there's an elder in my community in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, Flora Neumia, and she makes these hats. And on these hats she says, persist, insist, resist. So if a 90-year-old woman could go around saying this is what we all need to carry in our hearts. And we have a vision that was given to us from Jeff, who's been working, you know, I just thought about it, almost 50 years. You know, Campaign for Justice has been working, and they've seen intermittent change, but they are still going and persisting on that. And then June has brought personal transformation to people our society totally disregarded. And as she said, may have been there because they had no support, no family, no social structure, and of course, an unjust legal system. And then we have Isabel, amazing, working with women, talking for change. It reminds me, her work, the way she started, where's that quote? Reminds me of Margaret Mead, who said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And I was so inspired by her, what the work she's doing, her sensitivity to the needs of the community, and her own personal story of growth. And the same for Vidi. My gosh, so much energy. Here we are at the end of the day, and I'm almost shouting because she got me so excited. And especially as a teacher, because I just know everything she was saying I've experienced. And I know when I was a principal of a school, and we got this message that ICE couldn't come to, that the school board said, don't allow ICE. And so we told the parents that. But they all heard ICE, and nobody came to school. So, this is tragic. So just the fact that someone can support teachers, support the community, so that we can all learn better ways to make a just society for children, it just is, I'm excited about it. So I want to thank you for coming, and take the goodwill, your sense of justice, the strength you had to be here, and the strength your ancestors had to survive the tragic system of incarceration. Take it with you and go out into the world. Oh, sorry, no time for questions. But they're here. We have an announcement.
Can we have another round of applause for these incredibly powerful speakers? Thank you all. I have a few logistical announcements. We do need to clear this room for setting up the Perukai dinner, so would appreciate kind of a swift transition. The Perukai dinner is from 6:30 to 9:30. Dinner is scheduled to begin at 6:30. Due to the size of our group and to manage the lines, we're hoping to do something similar to lunch and to call table numbers. So we recommend that you are seated first, and then before heading to the buffet lines. For folks who don't know, Perukai is a network of former Japanese Peruvian internees and their families in the US, Japan, and Peru, and everyone is invited. If you are not coming to dinner though tonight, 7:30, we are going to board the buses. We're requesting that everyone be here before 7:30, and we're boarding by these doors that go outside to the right. So please make sure to be down here. We need to leave by 8, so we need to have everyone in line at 7:30. Thank you.